welcome to Crafty Meraki's YouTube channel. My name is Aditi and I'm back with some card making inspiration for y'all. Today I am going to be using my shapeshifter stencil and some brushed gold foil from All's New to create a foiled mixed media style grungy background without the use of a laminator or a foiling system. I am using this 3D adhesive medium from Sizzix and just picking it up with this makeup sponge applicator, and I am going to dab that on my card base through the stencil. Now what this does is it is going to create a tacky texture through that stencil, and when it is kind of transparent I can then use my foil over it for a foiled background. Since I don't own any foiling systems, I am always on the lookout for using foil in my projects, but with different mediums and techniques. So I like this one particularly. It will not give you 100% clean, crisp foil look, but a nice grungy foiled background, which works for me. So once that is tacky, not completely dry, just tacky and sticky and transparent, I place my foil with the shiny side up and nicely firmly burnish that. I also go over with my heat tool just to kind of start melting things and making sure there is good contact between that adhesive and the foil. And I also like to use my brayer to nicely burnish everything together. I repeat these same steps a couple of times until I am sure that everything has kind of adhered to my background, and then I am going to gently peel it off, and there you see I have that grungy foil textured background through that stencil. Now for my elements, I am going to be using the Words of Wisdom magical sets from Lindy, and I am playing with the Passion Posies stamp and die element from the new release from Crafty Meraki. But today I am going to be using the single flowers in this stamp set. I am going to show you a very quick and easy way to color your stamped images using the magicals. So I have a piece of acetate here, and I am picking water, clean water, with my paintbrush and just adding that, gently dabbing and rubbing it on the acetate. I go in with the light color, so starting with the yellow. I pick very little pigment. You can see just I kind of like just touch it and start mixing it with the water on my acetate. This particular set, the Words of Wisdom, is pure mica, so it doesn't have any shimmer, and the color are super intense, highly pigmented, and that's why you can see the yellow is fairly bright. Once I have that, I pick my flowers and just flip them over and lift ink from the acetate. So basically smushing the stamped and die cut element to lift up color. Now I go back in with the orange just lightly and repeat the same process, lifting the little lifting orange and adding that to the stamped elements. And then I clean my palette or the acetate backing and then go in with the red. Now I want the red to be bright and intense, so I'm picking in a little more pigment than I did with the yellow and the orange this time around. And every time I pick a little, I mix it and then pick back more until I know that I have a nice, vibrant, deep, intense red going on. So I then repeat the same step, smushing the flowers on the red to pick that intense color to bring that contrast and brightness on my flowers against that gold foil grungy background. Now with that done, my elements are colored, and you can see that really took very little time to get that done. Now I am using some Bayou Boogie gold in the same way, but adding that to my background. So I am again just mixing the color with water on the acetate, and I am then directly smushing the card base onto the gold to lift up the color so that it can go in between that stencil design where I don't have the foil, and just settle in there, giving me a little gold on the background. I do want to add a little more gold shimmer to the flower, so I just pick that with my paintbrush and splatter that on the flowers. Now I want to go back in, but this time I am going to pick the adhesive with my palette knife and directly apply that through the stencil, just so that I get a thicker layer of this tacky adhesive and get a little more of the foil details. So I am repeating that same process but with a palette knife, and I'm using the same piece of foil that I have left over from doing this step previously, and I am just going back in, dabbing it, tapping it, and lifting it off until I have a little more of the foiled accent for the background, making it more bolder and the grunge even more visible. So I am very happy with how that has turned out. I think that looks really good, and I have most of that tacky stencil adhesive now colored with the foil, and I am all set to assemble and complete the card. So bringing back the colored flowers, I am going to use some foam tape to create depth and dimension, and I am creating a simple composition. I just want to lay the flowers on one side of the card almost as if it is some sort of a creeper. So starting with the biggest flower at the base, I am going to adhere that. So I do like to use touches of liquid glue over my foam tape just to make sure everything stays intact. I then build from there on, adding flowers one above the other and just changing their direction, making some turn to the left, some turn to the right, giving that sense of movement, almost like I was talking about, as if these flowers are moving from the top bottom or vice versa, however you perceive it. So with that, I am just adhering all the flowers, and once I have the last flower down in place, all I need is a sentiment. So I'm using the same set, and I have the sentiments stamped and die cut. I thought for this card I could use on your special day, since I have more space and I can add the sentiment in layers or lines. And I am bringing back the foam adhesive for the sentiment as well, just to create a little depth and dimension from the background. I add the sentiment down on the right side, just next to the flowers, and with that, this card is complete. So this was a very quick and easy card to put together. I have shown you some easy techniques to foil without a foiling system, and easier techniques to color your stamped elements with some pigment powders without worrying too much about shading or watercoloring. I quite enjoy such simple, quick, and easy techniques, occasionally mixing them up with my detailed watercoloring as well. So I hope that you have enjoyed this as well. Do leave your comments, I love reading them, and I hope this inspires your next card. Until the next time, take care and bye bye.